What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, hey, I'm Sydney. Every single Thursday I sit down and I talk about the craziest true crime in every single state, the one that stuck out to me the most. So if you like true crime, you should subscribe. Okay, I know that I've been gone for probably a month now and I'm really sorry. Welcome to February. I had a lot of things going on personally and then like jobs and stuff. I really didn't have time to sit down and film. The video that I posted last Thursday was with my friend Kat. It's really funny and y'all should go check it out. I know that it's not at all what I've been doing on this channel, which is true crime, but it is very funny. And we filmed it very last minute and I decided to edit and film it, post it instead of true crime because it was just a little bit easier than researching death. Happy month of Valentine's Day, so February, whatever, so I have hearts going on in the background this time. Thank y'all for being patient with me. I shouldn't miss an upload this month because I have everything pre-filmed. I just wanted to let that be known and apologize to you guys because I really didn't mean to miss like a few weeks. YouTube's not my full-time job. I have another full-time job, so I have to do this on the side. So for the people that have been patient, that's awesome. Also, we are over 300 subscribers. Last month we had just hit 200 and I think that's freaking cool and I'm so excited. So thank you guys so much. Also, I'm going to say this at the beginning. Please be sure to subscribe if you are constantly watching me. I looked at my analytics and a lot of people are not subscribed. Over 80% that watch my videos are not subscribed. So if you watch consistently, make sure you hit the subscribe button and join this little family we got going on, this little true crime family. So today's video, I'm just gonna give a small disclaimer myself because it is a little graphic. There is some sexual torture involved and also there is death. This is two brothers going in and committing crimes. There's a lot of graphic details in this case that I will not personally be putting in because I know how intense that can be sometimes. So if I seem like I'm missing out a lot of details, I'm gonna obviously link in the description the articles that I read. You can go read up on them themselves, but I really just don't feel like adding in a bunch of the things. Yeah, we will just get into it. This is Reginald and Jonathan Carr, the brothers of the Wichita Massacre. From the start, Reginald and Jonathan Carr had a very hard home life. Reginald was the older brother of 2 years. They had a really toxic family home. Their older sister was constantly sexually abused by their father, and the two parents didn't have a good relationship either. When the two parents divorced, the mom Janice remarried again, but this marriage was just as toxic as the first marriage with the boy's father. Their mother was actually really physically abusive to all of the siblings, and she would use electrical cords to punish them. It didn't say what she technically did with these cords, it just said that that was something that she would use. Not entirely sure if she would like whip them with them or even tie them up or shock them or something, but it was constant electrical cords. That was her go-to method of physically abusing all of the kids. So because of their home life, Reginald and Jonathan decided to go live with their maternal grandmother, but she was just as short-tempered as their mom, so they didn't really escape anything whenever they moved out. Growing up around this toxic environment really shaped the boys into how they were. Reginald was known to constantly get in fights at school and he was exposed to sex and drugs just at the age of 6. And Reginald also had many failed marriages at the beginning of his early adult life. Jonathan tried killing himself and became really bad suicidal at the age of 16 by drinking antifreeze, but he did survive. He kind of took it a different route rather than Reginald. Reginald was very angry and physically abusive, while Jonathan was kind of getting on the more depressive side, and just really sad that these boys had to grow up in a home like that. Which, if you go back to these stories, almost all, I think there was like 2 that didn't, but almost all of these people that I have been talking about have grown up in homes that are just awful. And I'm a huge believer of the social learning theory. If you don't know what that is, check it out. I could go on and make a whole video about it. I don't know. So that's just a look into their early life. This case mainly focuses on exactly what they did with their crime spree. Let's just get into it. Okay, we're starting off early. One day, randomly in the year 2000, the brothers decided they were going to go on a crime spree in Wichita, Kansas, and it was going to be about a week long, and they were just going to do as many things as they could. On December 8th, their first victim was a man named Andrew Schreiber. He was a baseball coach, and he was robbed at gunpoint. 3 days later, one of the brothers decided to go carjack Ann Wallenta, who was 55 years old, and she had just parked her car in front of her driveway. Ann started to back out of her driveway to try and get away, and this is whenever the brother decided to start shooting at her, and it severely injured her. The reason why the cops were called was because a neighbor had heard her car alarm going off, or her car horn, and was wondering what was going on, and it was because her head had collapsed directly on top of the steering wheel, which made her head hit the horn, constantly blaring it, so that the neighbor decided to call the cops to make sure everything was okay, and that is how they found Ann. Since 911 was called, it didn't really specify in the article that I read if it was, if she like got airlifted to the hospital or if she was taken to the hospital, but at this point she was still alive. On December 14th, the brothers decided that they were going to go invade a home that was housing 5 people. It was 3 males and 2 females. The 3 males are Brad Haka, Jason Beffert, and Aaron Sanders, and then the 2 females were Heather Muller, and then also another female whose name is protected, and you'll understand why later on. Once invading the home, the people that were inside of the home saw the porch light come on, and that's whenever one of the female guests said that she saw a tall black man standing in the doorway, and this is when the night gets awful. The brothers forced all of the victims to strip naked, and they raped all of the women and beat all of the men. The brothers also forced the female guests, the 2 female guests, to perform sexual acts on each other orally, and that's whenever they sodomized one of them. And then they had all of the men in a closet and then asked the men to come out of the closet, and each male performed sexual acts on each female. Jason Beffert and then also one of the female guests that name is protected were actually dating, and whenever they realized that these 2 were dating, they made sure that he wasn't going to have sex with that female and made Jason have sex with the other female, which was Heather Muller. After sexually tormenting the victims, they let the females wear a small sweater to cover them because it was freezing outside, and they drove them to an ATM and forced all of them to take out as much cash as they could that the ATM would let them. After this, the brothers drove all of the victims to a nearby soccer field and made them kneel in the snow, all of the men naked and both women wearing a sweater, and they made them kneel in the snow and they shot them in the head execution style. Right after that, they ran over the victims with their truck. So the brothers had taken Jason's truck and stole that truck, and that is the truck that they used to run over the victims. They took this truck back to the home that everybody was living in and raided the home for any valuables, and took as much as they could, along with killing the dog that lived inside of the apartment. And sadly, the 3 men that were in the soccer field passed away, along with Heather Muller, but one of the female victims, whose name that I said would be protected, survived. She had a metal barrette in her hair that actually deflected one of the bullets, which saved her life. Since this female is a victim of a horrendous sex crime, her identity is going to be protected. Her initials are HG. So if I ever say HG, that is the surviving victim. So that is just a summary of what actually happened. Like I said, you can go and read all of the things that the surviving victim remembered, what the brothers were saying. She goes into really big detail about exactly what happened that night, and it's a few pages long, so I just wanted to let y'all go and read that because it's really intense, and I personally just don't feel comfortable adding that into the video. If that's something y'all are interested in, go read up on that, but I'm not adding it into the video. So her friends and her future fiance were laying next to her in the snow. She said that she felt the truck run over her, but she wanted to play dead just in case she didn't want to get shot again. But she gets up still believing that her boyfriend is still alive. Read about what she said with her boyfriend, it's awful. So she gets up and she runs out of the soccer field to a nearby house. She saw that the house had Christmas lights around it. She runs to that, and whenever she gets in there, she's explaining what had happened, that like her and her friends were raped and tortured, and then they're all possibly dead in a soccer field. And as the neighbor was trying to call the police, she told them, don't call the cops yet, let me tell you exactly what happened so that I can remember it just in case I pass away, like, because she did get shot, she still was wounded. So she didn't want the neighbor to call 911, but after she ended up telling the story, the neighbor called 911 and she was rescued by the police, got some clothes, and taken to the station. So I said future fiance earlier, and it was because Jason and the surviving victim were together. He was planning on proposing to her, and when the boys went back to raid the house, they found the engagement ring in either it said a popcorn tin or a coffee can. It was one of those, and they went and they took the ring, and that was one of the items that they had stolen. So he was planning on proposing to this victim but never was able to, which is awful. Weekly, this story was all over the news stations. They wanted to find out who these people were and get them arrested because this was horrific. It was so random. Like, it was just random. They didn't have anything against these people. They were literally just like, let's just go on a crime spree and kill some people, which is disgusting. When tips started coming into the police, it basically started when this guy called in a tip saying that there was a truck at his apartment complex that matched the description of Jason's truck, which they knew was stolen. Another tip of a guy at that same apartment that said that there was a guy that was needing help to move in a TV into his room, so he went down to help this guy, and he explained that this man was an African American. The victim, HG, had said they were two African American males. Because of this, the police were like, this is coming from the same apartment, why don't we just go to that apartment and see what's going on? They went to the apartment that the male had explained bringing the TV up to. They knocked on that door, and this is where Reginald's girlfriend answered the door. Whenever she opened the door, police saw Reginald trying to escape out of a window, so they went and chased him down and got him before he could escape out of the window and arrested him. So police learned that Jonathan was driving a late model Plymouth Fury, which was kind of a distinct car. Not many people had this in this town, so this is whenever they tried to drive around to find this car. They found the car parked, and Jonathan and his girlfriend Tronda were near it. So whenever Jonathan saw the police coming, he bolted but was arrested after a very small short chase, which meant that both of the two males that were responsible for all these crimes were in custody. And this was only 12 hours after the murder had taken place. So I mentioned Andrew Schreiber earlier, who was a victim of being robbed at gunpoint. He didn't know which brother it was, but in a police lineup, he was able to identify Reginald as the one who had robbed him. And the lady that I had mentioned earlier, Anne, who was shot through at her car when she was parked, she was able to identify the brothers in a police lineup, but because of her gunshot wound, she died 3 days after in the hospital, which is so sad. At least she survived long enough to help out the police to explain that who the boys were, which can add on another charge to their entire case, which it's great that she was able to survive so long, but it's still really sad that she didn't fully survive. Process of trying to get this trial together was very long and drawn out. It was super dramatic as well because the prosecution and the defense could not get on the same page with anything. The defense wanted to move the trial out of Sedgwick County because they believed that the brothers would not get a fair trial because of how quick the media got a hold of this case. They decided to move the trial out of this county into a separate county. The defense wanted to take 2 separate trials for each brother because they believed the brothers were going to try and blame it on one another. They were going to have 2 separate defense attorneys for each brother, along with 2 separate prosecuting attorneys for each brother, which would have just costed too much. But it was kind of long and drawn out with that as well, because it's like the brothers did it. They did the crimes together, so why would they have 2 separate trials? They did everything together. You did it all together. Both of y'all did it. So Jonathan's lawyer wanted to deem him unfit to stand trial, even though 2 mental health experts said that he was competent enough to stand trial, so that failed. So since both of these brothers, like both men, were African American and all of the victims were white, they tried to basically pin a hate crime on this and use race along with this. This is like on the prosecuting side, so maybe they could see if this was a hate crime against white people. So they just randomly chose people. They also had a random idea to go on a crime spree, so I don't know. It's like you can't really play race into that because it is random, but they tried so hard to make this about race, even though there was just no way that it could have been about race. So during the trial, a trauma surgeon decided to reenact the shooting of Anne, which caused one of the jurors to faint and be taken to the hospital in the middle of the trial. The testimony of Andrew along with HG was so powerful that any of the defense witnesses or whatever that was going to help out the brothers' case caused all of that to crumble because it was so powerful and so depressing, disturbing. Anything that the defense had, the prosecution had taken over, because there was no way that these men were not guilty. Like, they knew without a doubt that these men had done these crimes, were just sick people. Like, of course they're not going to win that. So at the end of the trial, both of the Carr brothers were convicted of all counts against them, including the death penalty was their sentence. So altogether there was about 50 counts against the brothers, but it was each, so each brother got the exact same thing. For each brother there was 4 counts of capital murder, 1 count of first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping and robbing, 13 counts of rape, and 1 count of animal cruelty, since they randomly decided to kill the dog whenever they came back in, which you didn't have to do. So both of these men are still currently on death row, even though their trial and their sentencing has been in the air for years now. There has been multiple appeals to the state Supreme Court along with the US Supreme Court, but these men are still currently on death row, serving out their death penalty. But these men are just nothing but evil. They had just had random motivation to go and kill people, and like in the worst way. Like, I don't even know how to explain that. Like, how do people just decide to do something so sick? I have no idea. So I know that there wasn't a lot of details with this case, but like I said, there was a lot of extreme details that I could not say out loud. It actually made me, like, when I was researching, I had to be like, oh, shit, I couldn't add it in. So if that's something that you're kind of feeling like you didn't have a lot of closure of what actually happened, or you want more details of what happened, there are in the Murderpedia link that I have down there, you can read at the very bottom. It goes into extreme details based off of what the surviving victim said, how the whole story played out, and I think it's a few paragraphs or whatever, but they're like really long paragraphs. Random murder spree of Wichita, Kansas. Please do not go on just a random murder spree because you just want to with your brother. Don't kill people. Doesn't even matter if it's a murder spree. That's just like, isn't that in the 10 Commandments? Thou shalt not kill. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe and tell your friends. A link to my true crime playlist will be linked down below, and also I think it's on the end screen, so be sure to check out all the other videos and stay tuned for future videos coming up. I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next Thursday. Bye!